So, welcome back, everyone, to Thinking Outside the Bank, where we not only talk about creative finance and real estate, but also real life people and individuals that, when faced with problems, they have to think outside the box to face those challenges. So, today, I'm sitting down with Deirdre Summercamp, a fellow Owners Club member who's doing something truly different. She's acquiring businesses, installing operators, granting ownership, and mentoring them to success. We're going to be unpacking how she builds businesses by ultimately building people. So, Deirdre, welcome to Thinking Outside the Bank.
Thank you, Trevor. Excited to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you. I have gotten to know Deirdre pretty well over the past, I'd say, 2, 3 months, after meeting in person in Scottsdale and talking on Zoom a few times and really understanding what it is she does. And I can say it's by chance because normally, I don't read all of what goes on in our Discord channel, I'll be honest. But I rolled over one morning and happened to see a rather lengthy message. And I usually will skip right past those. But something that she said really caught my eye, and that she was helping people that were leaving their W-2 become operators of businesses, which really spoke to me and my journey, again, with leaving my W-2 and trying to make that ultimately a leaving, in the past, still working PRN, but saw the light of, hey, maybe this could be a transition model. And something said, I really need to reach out to this woman, and have not been disappointed in all the knowledge that I've gained and the friendship that we've made. So super excited to get into this some today.
So am I, Trevor. Thank you so much. And it's been great meeting you and getting to meet your wife, Lindsay, in person in Charleston last week. So,
Yes.
yeah, businesses are my thing. I mean, it lights me up for sure.
Awesome. Well, if you don't mind, share a little bit of your background around businesses and kind of your resume and what's gotten you to this point.
Sure thing. So, first of all, I've always been extremely entrepreneurial. Like going back to the age of, I think it was probably 5 years old, my friend and I would color pages in our coloring book, and we'd go door to door and sell them to our neighbors for 25 or 50 cents. Like, I don't know. Somehow I just knew that sales and being an entrepreneur would always be something that I loved and enjoyed. Fast forward to today, I have over 25 years of corporate experience, mostly helping leaders build high performance teams. So that's around the revenue function and making sure that companies of all sizes, so anywhere between 20 million to billions, center their company around that one function that matters, which is revenue. And now, certainly, employees matter. There's a correlation between the way you treat employees and the culture that you have and your company's ability to scale. So there's a lot more to that, but I've always been super entrepreneurial. I've always had like a online bakery or some type of business on the side since about 2007. And I take um, those entrepreneurial things and I make sure that I include them in some of these large enterprise organizations to help them transform. Because sometimes when you're scaling, you then create these silos and no one talks to one another. So in large enterprises, it's about breaking down the silos. And in very small businesses, it's about helping them with structure, with people, with systems and processes to be able to operate without them, being so involved.
That's great. And I think I can relate to a couple of things you said there. I love the entrepreneurial spirit, even from a kid. We're encouraging our kids to do the same thing right now. My son has a business where he goes and collects the trash cans and brings them back up to the house, a 9-year old, and just trying to think outside the box of ways. He said, how do I make more money? And we used to do that as kids too. My friend lived on a golf course. We would go find the golf balls that went into the lake that day, fish them out, and then on Saturdays and Sundays, be posted up at the golf course as golfers came around and wanted to, buy golf balls for 25, 50 cents. So I love that and
Love
can
that.
definitely relate to that, as well as some of the things you said from the corporate aspect as well, being part of a very large corporation in healthcare for a long time. I can definitely see some of those silos you're referring to. And as you build and as you scale, it's like the head isn't talking to the tail. And if the head doesn't talk to the tail, the body's not getting the message. So I see a lot of parallels with what you're talking about, and want to really dive into more of what you're doing now outside of obviously those bigger corporations and what I've grown to know about you. Um, so I want to kick off with my first question is most people think business ownership is about control. You build it around empowerment. Where did that philosophy really come from and stem from?
It actually came from a quote by John D. Rockefeller, who on his deathbed said to his son, own nothing but control everything. And so, also in my background, I have significant merger and acquisition and integration experience doing that for a public company. So, knowing how to take larger businesses and integrate them in, um, like I understand that to the T, where you want to own nothing but control everything. And in my philosophy, what one of the things that I'm doing is I'm building $100 million portfolio of businesses that I can scale while returning ownership to the operators of the businesses. So for me, I'm doing a couple of things. I'm not tying up my personal balance sheet because I'm retaining less than 20% equity in every business. And a lot of people don't know that it's not the equity, it's the operating agreement and the management agreement that you put in place that gives you the control.
Interesting. I'd say that mindset alone really changes how people think about ownership. Because especially in Owners Club, we're taught think like an owner, be an owner. And I've actually read, John D. Rockefeller's letters to his son in that book,
Mhm.
and I absolutely it was fantastic. It's a very short book, but I would read like a letter a day and repeat it for like 3 days, and then just move on to the next because there's so many good nuggets in there that people don't realize, and it's an awesome principle. So thank you for that. Um, so walk me through a little because you buy businesses and you put operators in place. And from my experience, you find the operators first, then you go find the business, and then you give them ownership. Walk me through how that structure really works and why you believe in it.
Sure thing. So, one of the things that was an aha moment for me is joining the Sub 2 community and learning from Pace that you don't need to use your own money. There's this whole world of PML, private money. You don't just have to go to the Small Business Association to get a loan. Like, I didn't understand that as individuals, we can buy businesses ourselves. And so, learning from Pace, seller finance principles, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I can just do this on my own. So, I left that public company. And I will tell you that being able to help people leave their W-2 and let me see how to say this better. Helping people leave their W-2 and then gain ownership in a business that they love and that they care about. Because I think a lot of us, especially in my generation, we just followed the prescriptive path of going to college, getting a job, being in corporate. I wanted to be an interior designer. When I was in high school, I was an art major. So I was told, well, actually, business is really the way for you to go because the jobs are more secure. So that's what I did. And I have so many colleagues that I've worked with over my career that are in corporate marketing, but they always wanted to own a florist, as an example, or people that have certain passions outside of their business role. And if they could own a company where that's what they're doing full time, that's nirvana. So for me, it's giving ownership to those operators and having them learn how to scale the business and to improve their revenue. So it becomes a win-win. I retain less than 20%, of the equity in the business. But as I mentioned, the operating agreement, the management agreement, those are very much structured the way I want them to be.
That's great. And that's a totally different way to scale. You're really putting people first. And again, that's what really drew me to you that very first, post. It was very evident that it was, about finding the operator, making sure it was a win-win situation, that you were going to be successful and then go find the business. So I was like, man, this is really, really interesting. And even talking about mentorship. And I think that kind of takes me towards the next. I think some of the first questions were, okay, like you retain ownership. You clearly went out and found the business. You've made the connection. You've structured the deal. You know how to do this. When you bring someone in as an operator owner, what qualities really matter more than experience or resumes when you're looking at situations like this?
Great question. First of all, I'm fortunate that I have a network of high performance leaders. So the qualities that are typically found in these high performance leaders are they have a we, not a me mentality. They're very team focused. They are curious. They're resourceful. They're resilient. Um, sorry, they have a get it done attitude and they just find a way. It's not about what they've done in the past. For me, it's about what it is that they see that they can do in the future in this specific role. So they come to it with an energy and an excitement. It's important for me that I understand what their core values are and I align those with the core values of the business owner who is selling their business. Because for me, that's the most important thing. If you have a seller of a business that's retiring and their own core values are integrity, fun, professionalism, loyalty. I'm looking for that next generation owner slash operator to have similar core values, integrity, so that the both employees and the customers feel that same spirit. Believe it or not, there's like an energy that matters in small businesses under $20 million. It just, you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, that energy, I mean, we used to call it we called it the culture. Because
Yes,
really
that's
that's when a
it.
manager becomes a leader, when you're really curating that atmosphere, that culture by everything from the people you hire to come do the job and making sure it's not just filling a seat on the bus, it's more of making sure that's the right person in the right seat on the bus. And that was a big change in mine that we had a manager or a leader or director, whatever you want to call them, talk about not only just getting, butts in seats, but also making sure the right butt was in the right seat, or if maybe it was on the wrong bus. That's truly what
Mhm.
leadership is versus just being a manager and managing expenses. So it's really good. I'm glad you
Yeah.
leaned into that.
Yeah, there are some other things too. Now that you've said that, it's like they don't have big egos. They're always doing personal development on their own to become better leaders. They understand praising in public and giving any type of feedback that is constructive in private, right? There's like certain leadership lessons that they all live by.
Yep.
And it really affects the culture in a positive way.
Yes. I love that too. The praise in public, construct in private. That's down to an art. And I had to learn that the hard way a few times because I'm very much if I'm getting feedback, I want it right when I make the mistake. I want you to just, and I'm humble enough, not humility. I'm humble enough to recognize and receive that. But then when I started giving that out, I realized I was embarrassing a lot of people and maybe it wasn't the right time and right place to do it. And it's still a learning experience, right? We're always trying to get better. I'm not perfect by any means, neither is anybody, but again, constantly trying to get better. I love that you mentioned that too, that mentality of always learning and improving. So it's really good. So there's a big risk in your model, I would say. There's real risk in giving somebody ownership and trusting others to run the business. How do you manage that tension between trust and protecting yourself and ultimately the business owner that's selling you this business?
So I don't use business brokers. I don't work with business brokers. I go directly to the seller. In many cases, they don't know that they can sell their business or they haven't thought about succession planning. And so it has to be a win-win-win for all of us. I reach out and build a relationship with the seller. I negotiate the structured payout to the seller. I bring in the operator once I bring in the operator at the appropriate time, and I create a 30, 60, 90-day plan for not only the operator, but key people in the business. And in some cases, the sellers of the business are going to stay on board for a defined time. It might be 30 days, it might be 6 months. It all depends on the complexity of the business, and each business is different. So everything is clearly outlined, documented. We all are on the same page, and that matters most, right? So there's plenty of time to ask questions, plenty of time to change things, and in making sure that there are open lines of communication throughout this whole process. There's full transparency. Everyone knows what's going on. Some of the things that I've learned in mergers and acquisitions and integration is doing things like giving all the employees an uplift in their pay, right? And giving some key people the ability to have ownership themselves after a period of time. So it's like all of these little details help make the culture even better than when the seller originally was leading. And sometimes those sellers nearing retirement, maybe they don't know how to develop the next generations, right? And I'm putting an operator in that is used to working with very dynamic, multi-generational teams. So, I mean, it just becomes a win-win-win for everybody. But yeah, for sure, there's risk, but I mitigate that through identifying who's going to do what and control what in the operating agreement and the management agreement. God bless you.
Thank you.
So
That's
that
that's good.
operating agreement and management agreement are really key. That's what outlines who's going to do what and who's responsible for what. So yeah, documentation is important.
That's great. And I think a lot of people would get stuck there, but your experience again with mergers and acquisitions and bringing up these companies with some crazy high revenue up to, billions, millions, like it's insane, but it still starts with that culture. It still starts with that energy. It still starts with, elevating the people that are beneath you. That's what a true leader does is reaches back down, extends out their hand and brings up those next leaders. It's not about staying at the top and making sure everybody stays below you. It's, bringing others along for the ride. And that was a big, kind of culture change for me when my leaders told me that. I was like, what do you mean? You're letting me know all the secrets? It's like, well, yeah, if I don't bring anybody along as a successor, how am I ever going to move up if I'm not training the next person that's going to replace me? I'm not worried about you leaping over me. I'm worried about, when I do get that opportunity to move on to the next step, a lot of my bosses would say, okay, you're asking for this raise, you're asking for this new position. Who have you trained below you to now replace you? And that really was a mindset shift to me too. Is like, okay, I'm not competing with anybody. I want everybody to get better together. If our culture and our business is all getting stronger, it's only going to benefit all of us. And truly, those that are out for themselves are going to filter themselves out. So
100%. I love that because again, it's looking at what's in the best interest of the business because when you work together in that way, everybody wins and the business thrives and grows and becomes unstoppable.
yeah. What's a lesson that you've learned the hard way in this model? Something that you would do different, maybe if you were starting over, or a lesson you've learned now that you've adapted as you've kind of grown with this business model.
When I first started with this business model, I took too little equity I knew that I wanted to be under 20%, but for some of the first ones, I did 7%, 10%. And now I'm going to be doing right under 20%, like 19%. That's something that I wish I had started out of the gate higher. I just, my passion and my desire is to help other people. And like I was just so gung-ho about helping return ownership to the operators. So I give them between 50 and 75% ownership. In some cases, the sellers retain some of that ownership as well. And then there's certainly ownership for others within the organization.
Hmm. Can I ask, and why that percent? I know you've said sticking under 20%. I'm assuming there's a reason. And also, why did you start yourself out so low? And yeah,
I have my mother's generosity gene. I'm just, that's who I am. I love being generous to people. And quite honestly, a lot of my needs are met. And so I'm at that phase of my life where I want to help other people. And yes, I do need active income and I do need, I do build long-term wealth. But for me, it was, wow, I've got this system. I want to see if it's going to work. And, I just was so excited. I'm like, huh, well, I'll just go for a smaller amount of it. I don't know.
yeah,
I wasn't thinking about it with my business hat on.
yeah,
I was thinking about it more from my heartstrings of like, you get a car, you get a car. Like,
yeah.
it just doesn't matter.
But is there a
But
reason you have to stay under 20%?
oh,
Or
sorry, yes. So I have this whole financial structure and model, but the short answer is when you're under 20%, you don't have to, it doesn't affect your personal income statement. It like, for example, the SBA doesn't require a personal guarantee. Now, all of the ones I've done have all been seller finance, all creative finance, no SBA loans.
Mhm.
But I want to minimize my if I'm going to do a lot of these, I want my risk spread out across many, many businesses, which is my model, and not have too much ownership in any one. So under 20%, like if they do need an SBA loan in the future or any type of loan to grow even further. Like I want to make sure that my personal balance sheet is 100% protected. Again, going back to that Rockefeller statement of
Mm.
owning nothing and controlling everything. I actually control a lot in these businesses, and I do own some of it and I get cash flow from it. Um, but the model is like it's fully balanced so that my cash on cash return is even greater.
I love that. And that it does make a whole lot of sense when you spell it out like that. I knew there was something behind it, so I was just curious. What prompted you to come up with this model? And how long have you really been leaning in and kind of leveraging this? You just mentioned creative finance, seller financing, all these businesses. I take that's learning through PACE and through our community, correct? Right? You were
Yes.
in Zero Down 1.0, and that's
Hmm.
really where your kind of jumping off point was like, I have knowledge in this and I'm just gonna go. So how long have you been running this model and kind of leveraging this?
So I've been doing this for 18 months, like literally joining Sub 2 in our community changed my life. I would not have known about creative finance. I would not have known about seller finance and being able to structure these payouts to people who are retiring. So it acts as an annuity. There's so many benefits for them. They don't have to pay large capital gains taxes all at once. Like there's just so many benefits to creative finance, which we know from the real estate side. Applying those same principles to buying businesses, it just was such a natural, like, aha moment for me. And then I took other principles that PACE uses, like find the buyer first in real estate. And I'm like, wait a minute, I will find the operator first. And then I'll go source the right business for him or her. And that has made me able to scale that very quickly. And the model is like, it's working amazing because across many businesses, I don't spend a lot of time in them. The operators are absolutely running them, and there's certain controls in place, and I know exactly what's happening. A lot is automated. I love agentic AI. There's just things that are working really efficiently. So, but it was joining the Sub2 community that absolutely changed my life.
That's great. And I think, especially the creative finance, that insight alone is probably going to save somebody, you, as well as some of these future operators, years and years of experience and lessons learned. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited
S-
about it. I've got this whole system that I'll be coming out with in March because I want to teach
Exciting.
others how to do the same thing.
Exciting. I can't wait for that. I know we've had some conversations to end this year and kind of looking forward to that next year of where you're going, what you're doing with it, because I definitely see some parallels and would love to be one of those operators as we've mentioned before. So looking forward to that and what's to come. But speaking of that, when you look ahead 10 to 15 years, what does true success look like for you? Not just financially, because you've spelled that out already. You're yes, you're looking for some cash flow and active income, but ultimately that generational wealth. But not just in terms of that. What does success look like for you in terms of people that you've helped build?
I want to help over 100 leaders create their own generational wealth. And more importantly, be in a position where they have more choice. They have more control over their future. They don't feel like they are just stuck in a corporate role, but they're truly loving what they're doing and they're being great members of their community and they're helping their kids see that they have different options. We've got a whole generation of people that don't know if they even want to go to college or what that job looks like in the next century. So, just being able to help people have more choices. And one of the things that I love to do is have newer entrepreneurs, people that are either graduating from school or college, they don't know what they want to do, but they know they don't want to go to university. And they actually just want to jump in and start doing something in some type of business. I like to pair experienced operators with those brand new entrepreneurs and create a mentorship between them so that everyone wins.
That's super impactful. And that's impact that lasts much longer than any one deal or one business or one person. I mean, your goal of helping 100 leaders do that. Again, I can't wait to be one of those 100 and um, watch you far surpass that. I know what you've accomplished in the short 18 months. I can't imagine when you really get up and running. This is just the first baby step. So I'm excited to see that progression.
Thank you. So am I.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I'd love to see you not just be an operator, one of those operators, but understand the whole model. That's what I'm coming out with in March because I want people to understand how they can own many businesses and help many people following this same model.
Great. Well, I'm glad I got the teaser of that because I will be the first one in line and on the newsletter banging down your door. Like, is it March 1st yet? Um,
Excellent.
because I that model to me is so repeatable and it's so beneficial not only to me and my family, but then all those families, out there that are doing the same thing. And I got to point out one other, and I want to give a shout out to a one John Rodriguez, who's also an owners club with us, who I believe you've had the honor of speaking with, who has a
Yeah.
very similar passion and goal, and that's to help, fathers get out of their W-2s to gain that financial and time freedom to spend more time with their family. And if getting out of a full-time W-2 this past year has you know, showed me even the smallest glimpse of that this past year. It has shown me a lot. Um, I say that just so grateful and so thankful because I don't know that I would have ever made that jump on my own to walk away from my W-2, but um, to be parted from, let's call it that, um, was honestly a blessing in disguise. I didn't think of it at the time, But then when I kind of stepped back and really started to learn and meet all of these new people and join Owners Club and join Sub2 and Gator, it was just like, man, the light bulb, the sheet was pulled off of my head. The light bulb was on, the heavens opened, and it was like, there's so much more out there. And this model, I really think is so amazing because it's like an umbrella effect. You're going to teach
Mhm.
all of these people, and now you're going to teach this model, and those people are going to go out there and repeat it. Your 100 leaders is going to be surpassed in the blink of an eye when you really
Mhm.
start to roll that out. Because
That's the dream. That's the goal and the hope because and yes, John Rodriguez, love, he's absolutely amazing. That's really the goal is to just help people, like change more lives. Like if I could just do anything in my life, it is help people. And I think at the end of the day, people get to the end of their life and no one says, I wish I attended more business meetings or I wish I worked longer. They're saying, I wish I had more time to spend with my loved ones, or I took more risk, or I had more adventure, or you fill in the blank, right? So just giving people choice is powerful.
it's huge. It really is. And what I think back to, and I want to call attention to this because this is a big lesson I learned. I was sitting in a an interview for my very first management leadership job, and I remember at the end, I was always told, if you feel like you're the right fit for the job, don't be afraid to ask for it right then and there in the interview. So I said at the end, I said, you guys see what you're getting with me. I really want this position. So I was always taught to ask for what you want and don't be shy about it. I'd really like to manage this clinic. And it was a small clinic, a physical therapy clinic with me and like one other PT and a front desk worker and a tech. So like four of us. It's right down the street from my house. It was great. The biggest thing for me, the biggest benefit was being able to ride my bike to work. It was that close of like 2, 3 miles. And I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to save money on gas and all of this. And then my director at the time, her name is Julie. She actually, and she was 2 steps above me, and she stepped into the the interview at the end, and she said, "What's your main overall goal with this role? Is it to?" She gave me two options because I was kind of like, "Oh shoot, I hadn't thought about that. I just want to, I want to take the next step. I want to climb the corporate ladder. This is my next step." She's like, I'll give you two options. You either, take this job and you manage a small clinic of 1, 2, 3 people, or you go to this other clinic, which I didn't even know was on the table. It was a clinic in Winter Park. It was about triple the size of that clinic. So you'd be managing about 12 people. I think it ended up being about 17 when I left after we had grown it over a few years. And you will really impact those people. And I said, I really want to make the biggest impact. I want to treat my patients, and have impact. And she said, okay, step back and look at it like this. If you're a clinician that sees 10 to 12 patients a day, that's 5 days a week, you're impacting 50 to 60 people a week. But if you're now a manager at a bigger clinic and you're educating and edifying those 4 to 5 other clinicians, and you're bringing them along and you're bringing them up, and now they have impact on those same 10 to 12 patients, your impact now multiplies, fivefold. Think of it that way. And as a leader, and you keep going and going and going, you're impacting more and more people by edifying and bringing those people along. And I think your model is exactly that. You're not only now, how many operators can I go find, but how can I go teach those other operators to do exactly what I'm doing? And now you're
Mhm.
you're infinitely multiplying, your impact too. So I really love that.
Thanks. I love that too. I mean, money in the hands of the right people can change the world. It literally can. So I love that example. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I won't keep you. We're going to wrap up, but I want to give you the opportunity to share a little bit. Where can people reach out to you? Where can they, get a hold of you? What's the best, method to direct them to?
You can find me on Instagram for sure at summer camping, or even easier, if you go to D Summer Camp, so it's the letter D and then my last name.com, there's buttons on the page there. You can get in touch with me or, you know,
Beautiful. I will make sure that we tag those in the description as well for your Instagram as well as your website. And yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to you for sharing what obviously it really looks like to build businesses by building people. And just want to give everybody a shout out and say thank you. If this conversation really shifted how you think about ownership, leadership, make sure obviously to subscribe. Thinking Outside the Bank podcast, share this with somebody that you think in your network would really benefit from this, and keep thinking outside the bank.
Thanks, Trevor.
Awesome.